So many familiar faces. Good. Well, I'm actually as touched as you all are with the celebration. We have been together with the group, the courageous group that have decided to open the Spiritist Center. And we feel very blessed to work together for this so many years. I hope that we'll not only be celebrating this 7th anniversary together, but the 7 times 70. Many incarnations, that we will have far ahead, that we can be together and that this work only grows. Also, we would like to acknowledge the spiritual mentor of this center, Andrew Jackson Davis, whose birthday is actually tomorrow. So we will be thinking of him as well and asking him his permission and the permission of the spirit mentors of this house so that we can do the work that we have planned for today. To be a spiritist. This is what we all are doing here. We are trying to find a way to become better people, to improve ourselves, to start living by the standards that 2,000 years ago Christ, when came here, taught us. We are still struggling with many of the concepts of Jesus. We are still struggling to put in practice so many things. But in groups, in a family such as the one that we can find among Spiritists, we are more capable of succeeding, of growing together. To be a Spiritist is not an easy thing. The idea for us to write this topic about this lecture, this study, was actually to try to put together essential things that we need to become better Spiritists. One of the things that, right here, that we have to start acknowledging is that we are citizens of the universe. We as Spiritists should no longer think as ourselves as being from this or that nationality. Because we understand that through reincarnation, we have been actually reincarnating in so many different places, and we will still be reincarnating in other places. And the cosmos is actually our house, our dwelling, and it's important for us to think about it. The idea also to write this, about this topic, was that when I started studying more about Spiritism, I was still a teenager. And then, I was always very interested in learning as much as I could. And I used it to go to the Spiritist Center and to have as many days as I could, try to devour all the books that I had. But it was not enough. So there was a group of people that would meet once a week in a family home. And there was, it was the house of a couple that at that time I thought was, very old. They probably were not much older than I am now. But at that time they were so old. And I would go with a friend of mine, and we were the kids on the block, The rest was, everyone was old except ourselves. And of course, looking for experience, we are always listening to what they were saying. And I remember that once I came to the man and I asked him, "Oh, wow, how nice that you have been studying the doctrine for so many years. For how long have you been a Spiritist?" And then he looked at me and he said, "I'm not a Spiritist." And I was like, for a minute, thinking, what am I doing here, damn, you know? I've been deceived for so long. And then he said, I'm aspiring to become a Spiritist. I have to tell you that at the time, I couldn't understand quite well what he was saying. I thought it was kind of strange, or like, not exactly humbleness, but I said, oh, okay. With time, I began to realize what he was saying, and it's actually thanks to him that I came with the idea of writing this study, to see the process that we have to go through in order to actually be worthy of calling ourselves Spiritists. I came up with 3 essential items that we are going to be presenting today. Of course, there will be many more, but we think if we can think and do and follow the 3 of them, I think we are in a good way. So we start by quoting Rene Descartes when he said, I think, therefore I am. Actually, Rene Descartes is something that maybe our friend will be studying here. Bringing more about information, because his theories about God is nothing short of fabulous. And when we think that in the 16th century, he was already giving to us one of the answers that we have in the Spirit's book, answer 76. I think, therefore I am. When we have, spirits may be defined as intelligent beings of creation. They populate the universe outside the material world. So it goes completely in agreement with the idea of a thinking being. How much we have to use and exercise our intelligence as a way for us to become aware, knowledgeable about ourselves, our destiny here, our destiny in the hereafter, to become better people. And with that, we come to the first essential point for us to be a Spiritist, which is reason. Without reason, it is impossible for us to understand the concepts that the spirits that Kardec brought to us in Spiritism. We have in the Gospel according to Spiritism, its first page, where Kardec wrote, unshakable faith is only that which can meet reason face to face in every human epoch. What is interesting here is that we all mention how important reason is, how important reason was for Kardec when establishing Spiritism. But not many of us will actually stop to think the reason why it was so important for Kardec to stress how much we have to put reason in everything that we are going to be dedicating our attention to. Kardec was, when he was 11 years old, he was sent to study in Switzerland. We all know that. I mean, those that study Kardec and Spiritism a little more. And the reason why he went to Switzerland is not because it was, chic, or because, his parents want him to be something more than other kids that we had at that time in France. It was because of what is called Sacred Alliance. In the year 1815, when Kardec was 11 years old, there was an agreement, this Sacred Alliance, between France, Prussia, the Austrian Empire, and other places where they were going to be directed only by the Christian principles. Is there any?
There is.
Which one is this? This one here? Okay, thank you. So completely dominated by these Christian principles, representing a symbol of conservatism and repression. So in schools were forbidden philosophy, current languages, history, moral, political science, in addition to anything that represented analytical thought. When I was researching a while ago about that, I would say, what teenager would not love this school, right? There is almost no subject left for you, right? Except, playtime, perhaps, because analytical thoughts. Gym. Well, I don't know, maybe, the cult to the body, according to the Christian philosophy, was not that good as well. It could be dangerous. So there was nothing. This is why Kardec was sent to study in Switzerland. And then he studied with Pestalozzi. Because if he stayed in France, he would not have been received at the time any kind of more profound knowledge. So you take this kid, the only child of the family Reveil. At 11 years old, he has to be sent away. He was separated from his father, from his mother, from his neighborhood, from his language in a way, because he also had to be studying in Germany, in spite of Yverdun also speaks French, but German as well. And so that is actually a very traumatizing experience for a boy. When Kardec came with the set of knowledge that we know and study as Spiritism, the only thing they didn't want Spiritism to become was anything related to dogma and anything that could not face reason face to face. So this is why to Kardec was so adamant in stating reason above all, in stating that if science proves that Spiritism is wrong, that we have to be with science, because he lived that. And this is a very important point, a significant point for us as Spiritists. So the Spiritist reasons and chooses what is best for him or her in all sectors of life. The Spiritist does not choose a belief, a philosophy by decree, by inherence, by the conviction achieved through reason, exercising the right to think. For us who are parents, we know that sometimes, we want to bring our kids. It doesn't work this way. Many of us here, we were born in different faiths, in different beliefs, and all of a sudden we changed from the belief of our parents and became Spiritists. So we see quite well that it has nothing to do with inheritance, with family, with decree, you have to become a Spiritist. It doesn't work this way. So we will be exercising our ability to think, our ability to reason, and to decide what is best for ourselves. In this way, we will always, as a Spiritist, follow the advices of Paul of Tarsus, especially when he says, I have the right to do anything, but not everything is beneficial to me. Many people come to Spiritism at first when they approach Spiritism and they want to learn more about it. They start asking, what can I do or not? What is forbidden in Spiritism? And the answer will always be, if you heard anything different, forget about it. Will always be, Spiritism doesn't prohibit anything. There is no prohibition in terms of Spiritism, but there is reasoning, there is understanding, there is law, the law of the cause and effect. And you have, through this reason, through understanding, through knowledge, to decide what is or not beneficial to you. Is this particular action that I'm thinking about taking going to be good to me or not? Is it going to affect me or not? So we will always be thinking about it. We will be always reasoning, using our ability as intelligent beings of the universe. So we come. Is it difficult to do the first one? In theory, not necessarily, right? Okay, we are in the second one already. Study. How can we reason about something, decide whether something is good or not, if I do not have the knowledge to analyze things? How can I achieve knowledge to decide for myself whether this is a good thing, a good way for me in terms of living or not? There is no other way than to study, than to get to know Spiritism, to get into the knowledge of Spiritism. There are people that will say, well, I don't like Spiritism. And then you ask, oh yeah, are you familiar with Spiritism? No, I just heard about it. How do you not like it? How can you say I don't like something if you have never actually analyze it properly, as we have to analyze everything else. Also, many times, another thing that we may find in terms of, following a certain belief is that there was a time that, for you to say that we were a Spiritist, even in Brazil, was very dangerous. People would not necessarily understand what you were doing. It would be many times associated with Santeria, things like that. And so people would be very afraid to refer to that. Even today, there is still you can find some prejudice in relation to a Spiritism. Oh, please don't do that.
No.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And it's amazing because sometimes people come to you and ask, if you have a belief, and you say, oh, I'm a Spiritist. And they look at you like, strange thing. And then sometimes I can be very, very naughty, like now, when I said, please don't do it. I ask this, people, and what is your belief? And they will say, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic. And then I say, oh, really? Do you go to church every week, every Sunday? Do you confess? And they look at me like I'm an alien or something, And, oh, no. I said, oh, so you are one of those Christians that only go to church 2-3 times a year when there are celebrations. So we have to be very true to what we believe, to our faith, and and follow that with this kind of reason that we are talking about. So what is study? The true Spiritist it has to learn to love the study. That's why we have so many study groups in the Spiritist Center. Because it can be hard sometimes, it can be very tough sometimes for us to dedicate ourselves to the books, to Spiritist book, especially the ones that we are actually going to be having more basis, more material for learning. And then when we do that in a group setting, it's much easier for us to become capable of achieving this knowledge. So according to Jesus himself, he says in the Gospel according to Spiritism, Spiritists, love one another, this is the first precept. Educate yourselves is the second, showing the necessity for us to dedicate to study. So, in terms of Spiritist books, from Kardec alone, we have 30 books, 30 publications from Kardec. Many Spiritists only think that Kardec has 5, 6, 7 perhaps. It's 30 publications. We have to get to know all of them, not just 5 or 6, the main works of the codification. In terms of Chico Xavier, we have over 450 books. Divaldo, almost 300 books. And there are so many other very renowned and that do very good work in terms of Spiritism. So only mentioning these 3 here, and the classics of Spiritism like Leon Denis, Gabriel Delany, Camille Flammarion, is over 1,000 books. Do we need to look for, to read other books, to look for other books? We have to try to be very careful with what kind of books we are reading, what kind of books we are, using our time. Nowadays, there are many books, especially in Brazil, that supposedly are Spiritist books, and people will use their time to read those books. We should be very careful to what we are reading. The Spiritist Center will always be very careful with the books they are going to be showing to the public as well, because we have to stay with the good things. Sometimes people will say, but it is so hard when I have to read this or that book. I feel like sleeping. You feel like sleeping because you are still not interested in doing and reading and learning what you have to learn. Because if you were actually committed to that, you would be, using your time, even if you read a few passages every night. So it's very important for us to keep that in mind. According to Malcolm Gladwell, that wrote a book about it, he says that in order for us to call ourselves experts in anything that we do, we have to put 10,000 hours in it. If you wanted to be a good painter, 10,000 hours. You want to be a good hairdresser, 10,000 hours. You have to, you got the picture, right? And in terms of becoming a Spiritist, it's the same thing, 10,000 hours. So I love numbers, and I started, trying to think, what is 10,000 hours? So I was a little ambitious at first, so I started thinking, okay, if I dedicated 3 hours every day, when is going to be 10,000 hours? So it's 9.5 years. Not bad, right? But then I said, come on, be real. 3 hours every day? Is there anyone, you don't need to raise your hands, just listen to the question. Is there anyone here that we would be able to commit 3 hours every day for almost 10 years? Then I said, well, 1.5 hours better, so it's almost 20 years. For us to say that we really know, and I mean, reading the good material, of course, right? Not going and reading anything. So there is no other way for us to developing something, to learn really something, truly something, unless we put our time and effort to it. And Spiritism could not be different. And when we do that, and when we read what we have to read, and when we commit ourselves, and when we participate in study groups, then we will be capable of using our reason, using our ability to think and discern from ourselves, not anybody else needing to tell us what to do, what we already know, because now we understand, now we study, now we are dedicating to that. So the best medicine to prevent spiritual ignorance is still a good dosage of a book, right? But Dr. Bezerra de Menezes says the following in the book Loucura, Madness and Obsession. The living of the Spiritist tenets are pivotal to the true acquisition of illuminative values that ennoble the spirit. As a result, as respectable as the theories can be, the concepts untested in practice become intellectual adornment to vanity and prove useless for those who endure urgent need to solve the challenges ahead. Let's translate that to English. What Dr. Bezerra wants to tell us here, that as laudable and necessary as it is for us to have as much knowledge as we can to understand about Spiritism, without us understanding why we become Spiritists and putting that into practice in the form of love in action, charity, we are not doing a good work. So there is no point in us knowing all of that, and all of a sudden a newcomer arrives to the center with a very difficult situation in life, and we say, oh, here, it's the set of the codification books. Take home and read, it's going to help you. This is not the way that we Spiritists understand knowledge. We understand knowledge as a necessity for us to be able to put in practice and to understand why we want to become a Spiritist and why and what it is actually to be a Spiritist. And that has to be translated in the form of assistance. Without this assistance, the love, the comfort, the enlightenment that Spiritism can propitiate to others, we will not be actually in the right track. It's important for us to think about it. That's why the third and last actually essential point that we need as a Spiritist to acquire is love. It's still very hard for us to understand love, to talk about it. We still think too much in terms of love as being something that is selfish sometimes. But this is not the love that we receive as teachings from Jesus. It's the love of humanity. It's the love of being fraternal love. And so, the Spiritist is actually willing to love. We are in the process of learning about this love. Not only our loved ones, but humanity, and not only our piece of land, but the cosmos, that is the creation of the Father. And I learned that from a friend of ours that is actually here today. Once she gave this example, and I thought was amazing, which is how we as humanity have to learn to embrace each other. It's like we are, all of us, little pieces of the puzzle. Each one of us with our own characteristic, our own color and shape. But in order for us to have the big picture, to see, the beauty and the greatness of what that is going to be reflecting in the world and the cosmos, we have to learn to embrace each other. And so this can be actually a great symbol for us in terms when we are talking about love, when we are talking about this fraternal love for each other. As a Spiritist, knowing about reason, knowing about the study, knowing about love, we have to be very careful not to become like the teaching that Jesus gives to us in the parable of the fig tree. For those who do not remember the parable, we are just going to be talking a little bit about it. So Jesus was coming from Bethania with some of his disciples. He was hungry, and he saw a fig tree, which is a sycamore tree, with, like, you know, those the oak tree, one of the most powerful and stronger trees that we can have. And he approached the tree, wanting to find some fig to satiate their hunger, but there was none. And so he said that this tree, like, you know, according to the disciples, like, he cursed the tree. No one will ever be able to eat any fruit from this tree. The following day, when they passed by that fig tree again, the fig tree was gone, was completely withered. And the Gospel according to Spiritism shows to us this parable and how we have to understanding this teaching from Jesus as all of those who have the possibility of becoming light and love in the lives of others and do not do anything. Sometimes not even for themselves. And so instead of spreading the little that they can have, because many times, you know, I love it when Angie was here talking about the importance of teamwork. Many times people will come and say, you know what, I would love to help, but I don't know, you know so much more than I do. You have so much more experience. I don't think there is nothing I can do. Everyone can do something to contribute, to help. So you don't need to have this 10,000 hours to help, to start, you know, spreading this kind of knowledge and to start helping your brothers and sisters. So we have to have that in mind, how important it is for us to put all of that in practice. Without that, we cannot call ourselves Spiritists. We have still not understand what Spiritism is. Kardec comments on his books, Spiritist Voyage of 1862, that if he had to choose between two groups, one group with the people that would have all the knowledge and would study everything, and the other group that would know the essential but would be more charitable, he would stay with the more charitable one. So it's amazing because sometimes we tend to think, because Kardec had to be that intellectual, and he was actually a genius in relation to his time, you know, his writings and books on the other areas are still used in France to this day. To teach, to be taught in schools. So we always tend to think about Kardec as being that rational, completely rational man. But he was above all, he understood above all that yes, the study, the reason is important, but when we can actually say you are graduated is when we understand that without sharing that with your brothers and sisters, you still have a long way to go. And there is this phrase in that of Chico Xavier that he said that if he had waited for a more evolved spiritual condition to be of service, he would not as yet have commenced. So that's what we were saying. Sometimes, you know, we want to be too perfectionist. And we can't. We are still so far from perfection. You know, we said 7 years times 70. Perhaps then, when we will be celebrating the 490 years of inner enlightenment, we can have a different kind of conversation among ourselves. But not today. Today we have to be true to ourselves. We have to understand about our limitations. And we have to understand that regardless of what we can give, we can all do something. Remember about the widow's mite. I mean, she had that little coin that was nothing, but it was everything to her, and it was everything in terms of showing how charitable she was. And this is what we have to have for ourselves as well. When we talk about love, it is still part of this same attribute that we need to conquer. We are talking about charity as well, because we understand charity as being love in action. So whether we wanted to call love, whether we wanted to call charity, whether we wanted to call love and charity love in action, whatever, it translates, it means the same thing. It means us understanding the need for us to love ourselves, to do something for ourselves, and at the same time, to do something for others. And then, we all are, or many of us may be very familiar with this passage from Paul of Tarsus that he says, if I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. But then he finishes saying the following, if I give all I possess to the poor, and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love or charity, I gain nothing. What does he mean here? He's saying, if I give everything that I have to the poor, and then he says, if I do not have love, I mean, if you give everything to the poor, you're doing charity, right? You're doing a lovable act, right? But he shows here that it's two different things. You can give everything that you have and still have not developed within yourselves the ability to love, to have compassion, to really want to help your brothers and sisters who are in the way with you. So this is what we have to meditate about, this teaching from Paul of Tarsus. Not only to think about actions that can be empty, words that can be empty, but think about action and words that comes from the heart, that comes from a true, sincere desire to assist, to help others. Examples from Mother Teresa of Calcutta, there are so many. But since we are talking about understanding what this love that we are trying to explain here is, there is this passage that I believe many of you may know, that there was one day Mother Teresa was in her place of work, and a reporter was with her, and she was talking to this reporter, explaining about her work, and all of a sudden, according to the reporter, was like she went out of this world, and she said, I'm sorry, I have to leave, and she left. And the reporter was there, not knowing what to do. And then he said, well, I'm going to start following her. And he started following her, to see what she was going to be doing. And I mean, he realized that she was in such a different state. And then according to him, she went, turned here in one street and there in another street, until she went to a place that was, full of garbage. And she would start digging in this garbage until she found a man that was in the middle of the garbage. And she grabbed that man, and according to the report, that was the most horrific scene he has ever experienced in his life. He said that the state of this man was something horrible, the smell, everything was horrific to him. And she grabbed this man, put the man in her lap, started caressing him until he passed away. And then the report was completely flabbergasted. He said, I didn't even know what to say, you know, before all of that. And then he looked at her and said, how can you do that? I wouldn't do that, not even for $1 million. And she said, not even me, only for love. So this is the love we are talking about here, where we understand that beyond the barriers, beyond the difficulties, the limitations we may find even in ourselves, we will sympathize and we'll try to do something to minimize the pain of others. This is what we need to conquer. I know it's still very hard for us to have that, but this is our goal. As a Spiritist center in New York City, in Manhattan, what can we do? Us alone, almost nothing. Us together, much more. But one of the main objectives of a Spiritist center here in the United States is to offer to the American people the possibility of getting to know this blessed set of knowledge, philosophy that we have, that is Spiritism. Maybe we do not have that much money. Maybe we do not have that much understanding, even, you know, the 10,000 hours. But we already have something, and we already have a little of this understanding and this knowledge that we can give to others. That's why, you know, groups such as this one are so important in this country, are so important in terms of the plans of God. In 1965 and 66, Chico Xavier came here to the United States, and he met some Spiritists that were mostly from Hispanic origin. And he stayed here for a couple of months, and he wrote a letter to a friend in one of these times that he was here, in English, in a perfect English. And he finishes the letter to his friend saying the following, that he realized how important it was to start translating his books and to bring the Spiritist knowledge to the United States. That was 1965. We are kind of late. But we are trying to catch up, right? We have actually, if you look at Spiritist videos, you will find the letter. And of course, it doesn't need to be translated because it's in English, and it's amazing to see how perfect Chico's English was in that letter. And so this is what we have to be doing in terms of, spreading this knowledge that we have. In the book, Jesus in the Home, there is this item 16 that actually the lesson that tells the following. Oh my God, what is? Sorry. Let me go back a little bit. Oh my God, I wanted to go back. Sorry. Can you help me, please? Yeah. I'll start just. Okay. There is good. You can remove this one as well. Okay. So the story is the following. As always in the book Jesus in the Home, we have Jesus talking to the disciples. And in this passage, Jesus starts telling a story about the importance of help, the importance of assistance to his disciples. And he tells the story of two men that was in a very, in a desert area, in the mountain, very, very cold, like miles away from the next village. And they were struggling with the weather, struggling, not even knowing whether they would be capable of surviving before they were able to reach that village. And they start walking, and the wind and the cold. All of a sudden, along the way, they saw a little boy almost freezing to death. And they stopped it, but immediately one of the friends said, I'm not going to help. I cannot do anything for this boy. I mean, if we stop and try to help this boy, we're all going to die. And so he said, I'm leaving if you want. And the other friend was had very mixed feelings. He didn't know what to do. He looked at the little boy. He knew the boy was going to die if he didn't help. But he also was aware that there was a huge possibility of them dying, even not helping the little boy. But his conscience could not leave him leave the boy along the way. And so the other friend left alone, and he grabbed the boy and started walking. Of course, that path that he had to track before arriving to the next village was now almost impossible. You know, to carry the boy, freezing temperature, so far away. But he continued walking, he continued struggling, and finally, after many hours walking, he reached the inn, and he got into the hotel. And the first thing he asked to the manager was, oh, my friend must have arrived already. Please tell him that I managed to arrive as well. And he said, no, there was no one arriving. You are the first one, the only person that has arrived here tonight. He said, this is impossible. He left before me. He was not carrying the boy. He didn't have any heavy burden to carry. He has to be here. And he said, no, there's no one here except yourself and the boy. He assisted both of them. They were really in bad shape. They went to sleep. And the following morning, they, seeing that the other friend had not arrived, actually, they went to look for the friend with the fireman to look around. And finally, they found the friend frozen and dead. Of course, the friend was so surprised that he said, this is not possible. He had so much more chance to succeed in arriving than I did. You know, I was carrying this boy, I barely had any strength to do that. I mean, the cold and everything. And then the fireman said to him, but this is exactly what has saved you and the boy. Because while you were struggling, carrying the boy, the freezing temperature could not reach you here because you were carrying the boy and the boy was protecting you. But at the same time, because of the strength, the difficulty of walking and doing all that, you were releasing so much heat from your body that your body was also giving heat to the boy, and that this is why both of you have lived. So I think that this story is so amazing for us, because so many times we believe that when we are helping others, when we are doing any charitable action, we are being so good, right? We are helping, and now you have to thank me. No, we are helping ourselves. Every time we open our hearts to help others, we are the first ones that are going to receive the benefit. And this story proves to us that the man only managed to stay alive because he helped the boy that was in the way. And here we read what Jesus, how Jesus finishes this passage, people's most eloquent and exact testimonies before the Almighty Father are their own deeds. The very ones whom we help are our support. The heart we save will become a resource for us one day or another. Let no one doubt this. Those who live for themselves are merely a living ornament of loneliness. But those who work on behalf of others are creditors of everyone's help. By helping, we will in turn be helped. By giving, we will in turn receive. This is the divine law. So what we have to achieve is enrich our mind so that we can have the understanding why it is important for us to help, to work for our improvement. Because, sometimes people may ask, why do I need to be good? What good will come to me by doing that? Knowledge and understanding will bring you this answer. So we will have the understanding and we will have the motivation to change your heart. And Kardec is so amazing that in the chapter 17 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, he said the following: true Spiritists are recognized by their moral transformation and the efforts they make to overcome their evil inclinations. He doesn't say that we need to be perfect. It says the effort we put to overcome our evil inclinations. This is what we as Spiritists are trying to do. We don't need to be comparing ourselves to others. We just compare ourselves, to what we were yesterday. To others, I give the right to be who they are. To me, I give the duty to be better every day. So I cannot compare myself to anyone, only with me. Only knowing what I was yesterday and what I can become tomorrow. So this is how as a Spiritist, we have to think. This is how we, by having and dedicating to study, to reason, to love, we are capable of achieving this knowledge. And finally, to end our presentation today, we have this message from the Book of Hope, from Emmanuel, to be a Spiritist. So he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. The Spiritist doctrine, reborn Christianity. To be a Spiritist is to become a nucleus of constructive action from which the new era will take place. People speak of the world today as if it has been reduced to a house in ruins. The Spiritist is called to carry out the function of supporting rafters in order to show that not everything has been lost. There are those who say that humankind is in a process of disintegration. Spiritists are invited to keep themselves as healthy cells, capable of opening the path towards recovery of the social organism. Whatever destruction may strike, Spiritists convert themselves into an entreaty for reconstruction. Wherever indiscipline may rise, they become the embodiment of order. And where pessimism may camp, they emerge with expedience as a message of hope. And so it is for Spiritists recognize that they cannot demand for others that which they do not carry out and execute themselves. And neither should they expect from their neighbors that the latter be beacons of light, when many times those same neighbors await from someone else the flame that might warm and enlighten their constricting hearts is still suffering in the shadows. Spiritists are companions of ideal. The Spiritist teaching is the word of Christ that reaches out to us without shouting. And the Spiritist work, since the foundational basis of Allan Kardec, is the construction of the gospel in lifting up all creatures without belittling anyone. Let us all work by offering our services towards the work of human redemption, whilst being aware that each one of us is an emissary of advertisement of our own selves, and such work is not born out of violence, but rather springs out from truth and love of the fraternal touch of one spirit to another. And in view of all this, if you can accomplish something on behalf and to the benefit of your neighbor for what you know, remember that you will only contribute to the renewal of your fellow brothers and sisters for what you truly are. And this is what us as Spiritists are striving to achieve. We have finally reached a point in our lives, in our spirit life, as immortal beings that we are, that we were once again invited to work for our inner transformation, to awaken to our true destiny, to understand that without helping each other, without assisting each other in this journey, in this path of evolvement, we can do very, very little. That's why in Spiritism it's so important for us to get together as a family, for us to learn through our differences to respect one another, for us to learn through the different talents that we will find in each one how to work together, for us to learn through the imperfections that we still have how to be capable of overcoming those imperfections and achieve the virtues that are still so hard for us. By doing that, by working together in a spirit of fraternity, we can accomplish so much in benefit of others and in benefit of ourselves. That is the reason why the spirits put us together to do this work. That is the reason why we have so many different mentors, spirit benefactors committed to this work of dissemination of truth and enlightenment, because it goes beyond any kind of label that we can or we want to put, or a banner that we want to live by. We say it's Spiritism because it is the word, it is how the spirits convey it to us. But it is the belief, it is the set of philosophical set of the universe. How can we understand our brothers and sisters from this planet? How can we understand our brothers and sisters from any other different world? Spiritism leads us to that. When it says that there are many, many houses around, that there are many spirits in different degrees, and we are here, citizens of the planet Earth for a while. Hopefully we are going to be continue here when the time of transformation that has already arrived here in our planet, and we will be able to hold in hands, and we will be able to perhaps grab the hand of our neighbor and inspire this neighbor to follow in the path of righteousness, like we ourselves have to follow in the path of righteousness. We feel very blessed for this opportunity. We congratulate the workers, the collaborators, the brother in arms of Spiritism, of this Spiritist Center. The Spirit mentors that gives us the strength to continue regardless our pettiness, regardless all the inferior emotions that we still harbor within our hearts. And we ask them sincerely to help us to become better. We are, like Kardec said to us, we are doing in this incarnation the effort we have to do to accomplish something more. Let's put an extra effort, holding hands, uniting our hearts, uniting our love for Jesus, for this blessed doctrine, for the friends that we have here and beyond, and be with us. Thank you so much.